you guys were funny, but you guys had like some good advice, some good tips, and you guys were honest and truthful. So I was like, okay, I like that.
Oh, I really appreciate that, because I think a lot of people could benefit from this conversation that we're going to have. So you are Marta Maldonado, previously from 90 Day Fiance, and you did have quite the interesting relationship. And for us, obviously what drew our attention was, as we're Lebanese Canadians, and the topic of culture and relationships and love and marriage, particularly with, let alone our own culture, but like when we're trying to mix in with other cultures, is incredibly fascinating to me. And I know that the Latin culture has so much in common with the Arab culture, just in terms of family values and traditional roles in the marriage, and religion is also a big thing, and morals and all that stuff. So when we saw it, and our style is not typically, I'm not sure what the other people were saying about your episodes in particular, but for us, it was really amazing, because I put a lot of pressure on like my own people, to try to act right, and to try to break down as many like stereotypes or misconceptions and whatnot. But I am curious though, like what were other people saying? Because you guys had probably one of the most interesting storylines of 90 Day Fiance, and it's too bad that like we couldn't find more about you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that you say that, like you put pressure on your own people more, because that's kind of how I am. Like I kind of, well, you know how your culture is, you're very familiar with it. So like I'm Mexican, but I'm also American. And so when I meet Mexicans that are from Mexico, and when I meet Mexicans that are from America, like I see the difference. But at the same time, I like to stay in a very like solid position when trying to, have relationships with both, because I see, how both parties act, and I try to make things kind of like work fair. Because as an American born, going to school with Mexicans from Mexico, I was treated, I would say like unfairly. I was judged, because I wasn't I wasn't enough Mexican. I wasn't, a real Mexican. And so my Spanish wasn't perfect, and the way I behaved was white. I act like a white girl or whatever. And because I'm American, I'm technically not Mexican. And then when I go to Mexico, then I have to deal with the same, people are like, oh, she's American, she's white, she's not really one of us. And so, I think that's kind of how we are, within ourselves, a lot of, like, I get treated like that. People put pressure on me, so I guess it's just like something natural that we do to our own people. But your question was, okay, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just curious as to what other people were saying about your story in particular.
So the people are like really vicious. People are vicious. I was just seeing like a lot of people say really bad things, really mean things, not only about myself, but like about him. And it's just like a lot of it was not even true. Most of it just was not even true. It's just people like to say things just to kind of like vent, or just to be mean. But I guess that's kind of like human nature sometimes. Some people have more self-control, and some people are more like aware and alert with like compassion and patience and whatnot. But some people are just like savages. And so
right.
That's just
yeah.
But yeah, so because I've worked in the clubs, so even girls that I've met in the clubs that I didn't know I had any problems with, I would see them making comments like, oh, I know her, I worked with her, she's arrogant, she's conceited, she's a bitch, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I didn't know you felt this way about me in person. Like you could have told me this in person, but So just little things like that, or else other bloggers, I would see other bloggers like, oh my God, like they're so stupid, and like they don't know what they're doing, and just like some random stuff. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I feel that. And I think for me, I approach these things quite delicately, and because these are personal lives that we're dealing with here. And then there's the trade-off is that you guys decided to make it public, and for that reason you are subject to like public, right? And that doesn't always mean good things, unfortunately. And for me, it's more like, all right, well, how can I be constructive with this, and what are the main takeaways? Like if there's anything that we can learn from this, or if there's any cultural lessons here, like I try to bring that out. And of course, yeah, we're funny and we're humorous, and we bring it out because I know all the same thing with you and Mexican guys. Like I can call out all the bullshit from Arab guys too, and I could see it from a mile away. And it's easier to poke fun. And I like what you said about how we do tend to abuse each other in the culture, and it's true, because as a Canadian, I'm a Lebanese Canadian as well, and I do have that dilemma, that complex, right, where you're kind of being pulled from both ends, and you're trying to like figure out your identity, but your identity is in fact like half and half. And how do you celebrate that with one side or the other? It's like really hard. It's impossible, but essentially, like I said, like we didn't get to see much after that. And I was really looking forward to kind of following your story, and because you were in fact a dancer, and there were so many cultural taboos that like you were a part of that I know wouldn't fly like in his part of the world. It's it's so crystal clear to me, and I don't believe anybody that says otherwise. Like I'm not gonna sit here and play a game and say, yeah, it's cool that you're a dancer. It's like, amiga, it's not cool that you're a dancer, like, and it'll never be cool. My parents will never accept. I'm not speaking for myself, I'm speaking like metaphorically, right, or theoretically. Like it's just not, it's not a fact. And so let me ask you, what happened during and after the taping of the show, because you had mentioned that there were a lot of things that you just weren't comfortable with.
Yeah. So that's actually the reason why I got approved for the show, because I was a dancer, Muslim. So they loved it. That was just like,
it's the perfect storm.
Yeah. And but I knew it was going to be an issue because I already knew how he felt. He already made it clear. He's like, no, you can't be a dancer. You need to convert. He's like, you need to be Muslim. And we met online probably 2015. He requested me 2015. The show happened 2018, I want to say. And so he kind of pretty much, stood his ground with what he was saying, but continued to want to sort of kind of try to see if something can work, if that makes any sense. So 2015, he's like, what do you do for work? I said, I dance. What kind of dance? I work at a gentleman's club. What do you do? I'm like, like I show my titties and I shake my ass, pretty much. He's like, what? No, you can't do that. Like, that's haram. You need to become Muslim. And, started telling me all of these like Quran verses and whatnot. And me, right, I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, I know like this is not like religion approved, but for me, it's providing, a means to an end. And so I'm like, okay, this dude wants me to just like become Muslim. That's like, I can't just like become Muslim, because if I became Muslim, I would have to stop working at the club. And it's like, you're not paying my bills, you're not here providing for me. So I can't just like, oh, yep, I'm Muslim. And now all of a sudden I have to just like stop the work that's, providing, for me, because that's what I know for the moment, until I can figure something else out, or until I can reach, another level in life where I have a better source of income that's providing as much as I can get, doing that, or, something that just makes more sense to me financially. And so we stopped talking 2015 because him telling me to become Muslim just didn't make sense to me, like financially, because my rent's due, my car payments due, we got to have food on the table, XYZ. So it just didn't make sense for me at the time. So fast forward 2018, I continued dancing. But like relationship wise, it just wasn't working, like as a dancer or whatever. There's girls who have been able to have good relationships. There's girls who have been able to get married and whatnot. For me, it just wasn't working. I wasn't having any luck, finding the right relationship. All of the relationships just felt like the guys were just, interested in me because, oh, she's a dancer, like she's pretty, whatever. She got a nice body, blah, blah, blah. So it's very shallow. Like I wanted something, deep, something meaningful, something that I felt would like last. And all of the relationships just weren't lasting. And so that's when I reached out to him, like, what's he up to? Out of curiosity, like, let me see what he's up to nowadays. So I messaged him, he responded, we started talking. And then we started talking again. And then we started talking about a relationship and meeting, me going to Algeria, him coming here.
Were you still dancing at that point?
I was still dancing.
And so what changed for him?
He pretty much was still saying the same thing. Like, no, you can't, be a dancer. But yet he was like, actually, no, he's like, okay, that's your way of working. I understand and I respect that. So he did say that.
Okay.
But he was still saying you need to convert, you need to become, Muslim. And so since he was being a little bit more patient with me, I was being more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, taking into consideration, what he was saying about this whole like Muslim thing. So I was like starting to take it into consideration because I'm like, okay, the guys in the clubs aren't working. The guys that I meet, every day, that's not working. So I'm like, maybe there's something to this Muslim thing. So I'm like, let me take this into consideration. But I realized it's not necessarily like a religion thing. It's not necessarily one thing that works. And so even though I took into consideration, I was still, listening to what he was saying. I was still working. It's just like a lot of everything kind of happening. But
my question, sorry, just really quickly. My question is, for you to convert to Islam would imply that you were willing to make like a lifestyle change and like a personal, individual, spiritual choice. But what rubbed me the wrong way, and I think that it showed in the episodes that we made, was how transactional a lot of these guys make Islam in terms of, forget who you are as a person and your values and your moral compass and your religious, like, let's not beat around the bush here, Marta. There is only one God and Muhammad is his prophet, and you have to pray 5 times a day and you have to fast during Ramadan. You have to give to charity. And when you're older, you have to go to Hajj, which is at Mecca. And, you have to you have to actually live by those pillars. And so for me, like my issue with him was that there seemed to be so much more that needed to be done before that conversation should have happened with you. I know how religious the Mexican community is as well.
Yeah. So, like the whole title was Christian stripper, dating Muslim.
Right.
Yeah, I did grow up, in the Christian churches. I've, been baptized, in the Catholic churches, private schools, pretty much up until my ninth year in high school. And that's when I went to public schools. But, I'm very close to like the Christian faith. And even though the work that I do is completely like not okay with the church, to me, I try to bring my faith with me wherever I go. And sometimes I just find myself in a situation where it just is very unconventional. And that's pretty much where I found myself with feeling that I had no other options. So becoming a dancer was pretty much the only option I felt was available for me. And I kind of stayed with it because me, business mentality, I'm thinking 40 hours a week, $600 check every 2 weeks, or, one night, $1,000, so,
I mean, do
that,
the math. Do the math.
so
And
that's kind of, mhm,
yeah, and so as far as Christianity is concerned,
mhm,
and for the record, I just want to put it out there. I'm a cultural blogger. I'm not a religious one. So
mhm,
I just want to put that out there. And another thing too is, no, I did not, and I will not judge you on how you made your money and how you put food on the table and how you raised your children. Absolutely not. Single mother and trying to make ends meet and doing what she's got to do. You do you, mama. Like I'm all with you with that, right? For me, but it's about the hypocrisy for me because, not your hypocrisy, but his hypocrisy in the sense that if you were a Christian, like a practicing one, right?
mhm,
Then you wouldn't be dancing, like theoretically, right? Because in the Bible or in the Quran, like it's not something that's actually like technically permissible, right? Like no priest would be like, all right, that's cool, like you're okay doing what you're doing, right? And I'm not talking about your own faith, like your own spirituality that has nothing to do with you as an individual. I'm talking more like in the book, if you will, right?
mhm,
And so we are allowed to marry Christians
mhm,
as Muslims. So I don't know why that was such a sticking point for me. And that's why I think that the reason why it was so important to him was because of his family and the community and what are people going to think that you da 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 da. Like if you were again, they're called the people of the book. The Abrahamic religions, we all believe in one God. Christians, Jews, and Muslims, like you're called Ahlul Kitab in Arabic. So it's the people of the book. You can marry a Christian in Islam,
mhm. Yeah,
technically
I
speaking.
found that out because I was doing my own research too, because I feel a lot of cultures in general are very just narrow-minded, and I know my family is very narrow-minded, and so a lot of times you're just kind of fixed on it is what it is type thing. And so I had to kind of like learn and kind of do my own research and my own investigation to kind of like get a better understanding. And so growing up, it's like the Arab people are cherished, the Arab people and the Arab people can have like 5 wives or 4 wives.
Yeah.
um the girls have to wear the cover up, so
Right.
there's just kind of like fixed like opinions.
Those are stereotypes. Yeah.
Yeah, so me, I like to just kind of like have like a broader like view and understanding of things. And so I know that there's a lot of conflict though with even trying to have like understanding. So with me and him or any like um Muslim person that I have any relationship, there's a lot of conflicts because, there's just still dynamics that are kind of just hard to kind of like, overcome or kind of like understand and accept.
Mm.
Um, and so, okay, see, I tend to like lose track of the
No, no,
question.
no, that's my fault because I asked the follow-up question, but basically you were at the point where you guys were reconnecting and you were talking about going over there and he was talking about coming over here.
Mhm,
And I had asked like what's changed, and it seemed like you guys were both willing to compromise, if you will, on a few
mhm,
things, right?
mhm. Yeah. So, the thing with that was he told me how much he made in Algeria. And I'm just like, okay, that's definitely not enough to support anybody. And I kind of felt sad. I'm like, damn, that's what you guys make over there? Like that's kind of sad. And so I felt that I wanted to help him, but I refused to give my money that I earned from the clubs to any man. I'm like, it's bad enough that, this is like the money that I used to earn to like, make a living for me to like use it and take care of another man, I can't do it, because then I feel like you're my pimp and I don't have a pimp. And I refuse to ever have a pimp.
Or even your third child.
That part, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to find a way. I'm like, okay, it's not gonna work financially for us. Maybe if you come here, yes. But then, with the whole like passport and visa and all that stuff, it's not that simple, because you still need money for a plane ticket, you still gotta apply for your passport, whatnot. So then my niece told me about the show, the 90 Day Fiance show. She's the one who told me about it. And so I applied. I'm like, okay, cool. This might help us, because we'll get paid for it. And, maybe we can, come to understand each other a little better, and it'll test us. But if we can like overcome this, then I know that it's meant for us. And if we can't overcome it, then it is what it is. And we didn't overcome it. But that's why I applied, because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, he wants to be with me. So now I got to find something to make it work, because where he's at, he's only limited, and this is like an opportunity here that America offers. So, let me apply. I told him the story, they approved, they loved it. And so, they were going to pay us to continue, but we didn't continue. So we stopped after like the fourth filming, and they didn't pay him any money. And so we were not on good terms at the time. So we weren't really talking, but he reached out to me like, hey, they said they were going to pay me. Can you reach out to them? And I didn't have to, because we were already not talking at that point. But right. I was like, let me just do that, because, I felt that it's the right thing to do.
Right.
But his dad was like having surgery. That's what he told me. His dad was having like surgery. And so I was like, in my mind, I was thinking, I even told him like, well, you can use the money, help your dad or help your mom, take care of your family. Mm-hmm. He told me he bought a phone. I'm like, really? What? I'm like, you bought a phone? I'm like, okay. I'm like, whatever.
So he did end up getting some money in the end?
He did. Yeah, he did.
From them or from you?
From them. Okay. Yeah. So I messaged him like, hey, you guys didn't pay him. Like, are you guys going to pay him? Like, what's going on? What's up? And so, I had to go back and forth a little bit. And eventually they sent him the money. He got the money. And then we kind of just went back to like not really talking. So I'm like, okay, if, that little bit of money was enough to kind of like, keep you away, I'm like, all right, whatever. So right. I'm like there would have been more, but you're good with that. I'm like, okay.
Interesting. Okay. And so just so we're clear, your story ended because your relationship essentially ended.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. They wanted to continue, but they wanted to continue on with me, alone, separate. But out of respect, I was like, okay, the reason why I'm on this show is because of him, because it's the whole relationship, thing. That's pretty much the whole, storyline. And he didn't want to continue. I could have continued on and done it by myself, and it probably would have turned to something, but I just felt, which I regretted. I did end up regretting it, because I'm like, damn, I should have continued, because I at least could have, got paid from that. And, I could have like,
maybe met someone,
put that to my business or whatever. But, I kind of had to swallow that pill and just kind of like suck it up and let it go. And, I kind of vented to him about it a few times, but, eventually we're kind of like on good terms. We don't talk a lot, but like he'll try to call me, and it's just, we follow each other on Facebook, but nothing really. Like, I pretty much told him I don't see a relationship anymore, because I feel like during the show we could have worked through that together, but you chose not to. And out of respect, I chose to kind of give that opportunity up, to respect the fact that you didn't want to continue. So I'm like, I don't know if a relationship will work in real life, because I felt like that would have been the ultimate test for us. And if we could have like, got through that, then whatever else would happen in life, we could have like, got through. But so I pretty much just made it clear. I'm like, yeah, I don't think that this is gonna work anymore. So
Right.
as far as today, he seems to be single and he seems to feel that there's kind of like an opportunity, to get back. But I'm just like, I don't think there is. I don't feel that there can be.
And I always say this, and I think it's whether you're talking to somebody abroad or you're talking to somebody, locally, in every relationship, there's a trade-off. Like you're actually trading something for something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, do you feel like the trade-off, I guess you feel like the trade-off is just not worth it anymore with him?
Mm-hmm.
Is that why? And he probably feels like it still is, because at the end of the day, Marta, like you're a great person for him. Like I'm speaking like maybe on his behalf. Like you seem like a great person, and it seems like it would be a good life and a good wife and all that stuff. But the ultimate goal, the ultimate prize is coming to America.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think is something that's a dream that still lives on for him, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he actually said he didn't care about the visa. He's like, I don't care about the visa. I don't care about going to America. And I thought he was just saying that to try to be stubborn and to kind of like try to stand his ground with his religion, you know. And like, I was willing. It's like, okay, even if we wouldn't be together, as long as I felt like I could trust you, and as long as I felt like, you were an honest and genuine person to me, like I would have helped you. Like I would have helped you come. If, we stayed friends here, cool. If you found somebody else, cool, whatever, as long as our relationship maintained, respectful. And as long as I felt and could trust that you were like a genuine and sincere person to me, then I wouldn't have like any hard feelings, about, helping him get his visa or whatever, or helping him come here.
So
But
what made you feel like he wasn't genuine or sincere, other than him using the phone, using the money for other reasons than what he told you?
just a lot of times like where we would talk, and I would tell him like, how I feel about certain situations, or try to get to like the bottom of like certain problems, like with you telling me you want to be with me, but then the actions are not showing. You aren't backing it up with your actions. Your words are just kind of like, saying whatever you want to say.
Can you
Um,
give me an example of an action, just thinking the time difference and how far he is from you? And really, when we were watching the episodes on the show, like he only lived on your iPad. Like we never saw him,
that's
you
pretty
know,
much it.
right? And like the translating app. And it was like, I really didn't feel like he was there at all. He
Yeah.
obviously was for you at some capacity, but what do you feel like he could have done for you that would have made a difference?
Yeah. Okay. So one example that got me like really upset, and I kind of had like brushed it off, was the first time he was like, come to Algeria. And I'm like, okay, like let me make arrangements, like if you really want to be with me, and, I'm saying I really want to be with you, okay, then let me make some arrangements. So, I bought my ticket, I eventually, and, my money goes towards things that are important, and so for me to take that money that I work hard for, that I got to deal with a lot of BS, to get, to buy a ticket to go out there and like risk my life, like going to meet you, the least you can do is just kind of like not back down. And so after I purchased my ticket, he's like, oh, like it's not going to work anymore because, I forget what he said. I forgot what the first excuse was. I mean, it could have been a legit reason, but the fact that I already bought it after you already said, let's do it. And now all of a sudden, something comes up where now it's not going to work. Like, that kind of like showed me that you're not really like legit about this. So I just pretty much wasted my time and money on this.
Did you ever video chat with him?
Yeah.
So you
Look,
saw him, like you knew that he was like legit, and that physically he wasn't hiding anything from you, and like he wasn't a catfish or anything like
mhm.
that.
Yeah. Actually, FaceTimed with his mom, his dad, his little sister, his uncles, brothers, all his friends that he worked with. So yeah, pretty much everybody he would like put on FaceTime, like, this is my mom, this is my dad, this is my little sister, you know. So yeah, we did.
Okay. Okay, that's awesome. I wish we would have seen that more, that side of your relationship more. It would have added like so much more like credibility, if you will, to it, at
Mhm,
least for what we saw on the show. But
mhm,
you literally pretty much gave him like an amazing package deal, like an
mhm.
opportunity for him, and I'm not sure why he wouldn't take that up, but it probably is like a blessing in disguise, right?
Mhm.
That it did
Yeah.
end up happening.
And, um, and your or the point that you guys weren't able to see all that is also because like the production kind of wanted to portray, like catfish, and so that's where the pressure came in, because they were already kind of portraying him, in that way with the questions, and with like, yeah, they pretty much were asking all religious questions, and that was like a big pressure on him. Like that was, a lot of pressure on him, because he was like, I thought this is supposed to be about like, our relationship, not religion. But then when they filmed it and put it out there for everybody to see, they made it as if he was like, you know, all about like religion, and which he was, but
Right, that's what I was gonna say. Like, in
he
all
was.
fairness, I
Yeah.
understand what he's saying, but Habibi, nothing's happening if Marta doesn't convert. So like we need
Yeah.
to we need to get over that hurdle first, right?
Yeah, I get it. But I think on his part, he couldn't see beyond what they were asking him,
Right.
with like all religious questions. So that's why I was like, if you would have got past this part, with me, then you would have been able to see like, a different view. But we never made it past that part. And I think it kind of goes back to even our relationship, even without the filming. We never really got past like the religion part. So while they were filming, we kind of were, but where they captured us was where we were kind of like stuck, in the religion part. So that's
Right.
pretty much, we got, um, that's pretty much all they captured was the religion part. And, you know,
It's interesting because we like to focus on the Arabs that are on the show.
hmm
So there's a Tunisian guy. There was a guy out in Jordan with a girl named Brittany. That was a shit show. And there's a couple of other guys. And this was another opportunity. I was really excited about your storyline and like to really dig deep. But one thing that I've noticed, and we have a podcast too, and we get a lot of questions like from people that are dating Arabs, or they have like questions about overseas relationship, like long distance relationships and stuff. And what really frustrates me is that like um a girl or a guy will not be religious, right? So for instance, I'll tell you, like, if you're going to be with a person that's not Christian, for instance, right? But
hmm
Christianity is not something that you talk about every day, and it's not like a huge part of your life, right? It's just there in the background and it's in your heart and you just go with the flow, right? Like most people, like there's so many moderate Muslims out there that are just like living their lives and like none of this stuff matters. But then as soon as they meet somebody that isn't a part of like that umbrella, it's like all these things suddenly become like the most important fucking thing in the world. And it's like, bro, like you literally would not have cared about all this stuff if it wasn't going to be such a big deal, like for your parents or for the community or for, the public. And I think that's the cultural thing about us, which I'm sure the Mexican culture is the same, is um, appearance versus reality, where it's like deep down in my heart, I can live with everything that you are and who you are and all that. But publicly, it's just impossible, it's appearance,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That's what gets me the most.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely have realized that with talking to, Muslim guys. So I know like a lot of people are like, oh, you like the Arab guys, you like the Muslim guys. And before I never was into, the Muslim guys, the Arab guys. I was always about, Mexicans. Yeah, Mexicans. So that's all I know. And then like the first guy that I talked to who was Arab, that didn't go far. But then after that, like then I just started getting like a wave of like Arab guys who wanted to talk to me. So it's not
You were
necessarily,
like attracting them somehow.
I think it's because I was a dancer and it's like that's exciting, So,
Maybe.
but it's because it's kind of like with him, I kind of picked up like his life is kind of like, I don't want to say dry, but in a sense, I'm sure he's got his like full life going on and his full excitement going on, but they don't have dancers, over there. So that's like something new, something exciting, like wow, what, like really, so I think that's kind of like what it is. It's kind of like some type of like excitement factor. And which is cool because being a dancer, sometimes it's boring. To me, this is boring. Like this again, like like I gotta deal with this kind of guy again. So you
Right.
kind of want something different, like so me
Right.
talking to a guy who's like not like the other guys in the club that I meet every day. Like to me, that's something new, something fresh, something that's exciting to me, because
So does that mean that you are attracted to a guy that is a little bit more traditional, or a little bit more of a dominant male, or like you don't mind submitting to like a man, and those traditional roles I think they have come full circle, where I think a lot of women are now feeling more attracted to that power and that dominance, and that loving dominance. I don't mean it in like a negative way. I mean it in a protective way. Is that something that actually like feels good to you?
I think honestly, every woman, wants that and needs that. But if we don't get it, we kind of like are that for ourselves. And that's pretty much what I've become. I've become like my own protector, my own provider. And so, it gets tiring. Sometimes I would like that, but that's not what it is. And
But
so,
do you feel like those qualities come naturally to you? Because you said that it gets tiring, right?
it does, but then I kind of think to myself, well, this is anything. Like I've done sports, pretty much my whole life. So you have to go through the phase where you get exhausted, you get tired, but you got to push on, you got to press on, and you got to get better at it. And so trying to depend on a guy, that's just not the life that I've been given. I can't just like stay home and chill and relax and just cook and clean and go shopping and I
Right,
I
but
that I wasn't given that kind of life. So I had to, go find work, and working a regular job, it just didn't necessarily like work with like my life being a mom and going to school and trying to build my businesses. So to me, that was most convenient. And so the tiring part, I just kind of like stuck it up, deal with it, get over it, and press on and keep pushing and get better at it. And that's pretty much what it was. Because to this day, there's not one man that I can like feel comfortable with being like thinking like he's gonna come and like provide for me or take care of me or protect me. So I am that, like, that's what I am. So I don't have a guy who I get that from. So I'm kind of like used to it, used to doing these things for myself. But again, it probably would be nice, if I could have it, but I don't really know exactly what that is like.
that
So
that's really fair. That's really, really
mhm.
fair. And I kind of I get that. And I applaud you for your hustle and for your grind and for your businesses and all that stuff. But I think the it could be a blessing and a curse too, because
Mhm.
it could be stopping you from finding that male presence that you and a lot of women like you need in their lives, just to and by no means does it mean that you're weak or inadequate. It's just giving into like your natural tendencies and your natural role and the things that you actually want to do, and the you know what you really, how you really want to spend your time, you know, whether it's nurturing or building a family or doing whatever it is that you love. But because you've kind of taken it upon yourself to build all that stuff and to like hustle and grind and all that, it's probably, you've kind of set the bar so high now for yourself that you haven't met like a guy that's willing to meet you or actually exceed that bar for you. And I guess, is it fair to say that like when you do eventually meet a guy that can exceed that bar, would you be willing to like submit and to kind of fall back and to be that counterbalance to him if you were to meet him?
As I mean, that's hard to answer. I guess in my imagination, like if I ever met a guy, you know, who was like, hey, you don't have to do that no more. Like, I got you. Like, just focus on school, focus on your businesses, you know, focus on your kids, you know, don't worry about that stuff. Like, I got you. It might be awkward for me. It might be uncomfortable for me. And it might,
but he's offering you another, he's offering you everything he has though, in exchange for that.
Yeah. And the thing is, he would have to like do it, you know, because just to say it,
Right. Oh no, for sure. 100%.
yeah, so he would actually have to like do it. So it's like me, if I need, you know, money for, you know, a pair of shoes, you know, just something, you know, shallow, whatever.
Yeah.
I know I can go work, you know, and okay, I'm gonna go to the store and get it. Or if I need something like, oh my God, this bill's due, like, you know, I can go to work and I can get it. But to kind of like have someone tell me, I'd have to make sure that they can do it, because I can't just like, I'm working on my businesses, and eventually I want my businesses to be that for me, because I haven't found a guy to do that for me yet. So I'm, you know, investing, I'm building my businesses, so one day I can just like leave that completely, and then my businesses are just kind of like taking care of everything. So I guess I can trust more in a business than a guy right now. But I mean, for whatever reason, if that happened, the guy was like, don't worry about that, leave that, like, I got you. He would really have to be very active, because I'm gonna automatically think like, oh man, I seen these shoes. Like, I don't want to be like, hey, can I, you know, get some money? Like, to
no,
go
I
get.
mean, it's, yeah, and I appreciate that, but it's like the type of personality that would come with a man that can do that for you, like shoes would never be a discussion. Or I know you used it as a shallow example, but like those are non-issues
It's
for.
offensive to some guys though, because I've tried it before. So I'm just like, okay, he wants to be my man. He wants to, you know, treat me like I'm his girl. So it's like, I have asked guys before, and it's very uncomfortable for me to ask, but I kind of did it just to see, you know, if he's serious. And it offends guys. Like, well, at least the ones that I've talked to, they're like,
Okay.
why do you ask for money? So I'm like, okay, that's why I don't ask guys for money, because, you know, they're offended, like I'm using them, or like, you know, they're my sugar daddy, or, you know, something like that. So it's like, that's why I choose not to be in a relationship, because I don't like to ask them for money. But I feel like it's offensive to me that you want to like be in a relationship with me but not really be in a relationship, because if I ask you for anything, you know, now all of a sudden, you know, I'm using you, or now I'm a gold digger. So, you know, I don't mind spending time and going out to dinner and hanging out and doing all that cute, you know, stuff. But then again, even besides like the whole money part, it's just, I guess, just trying to understand, you know, like on all aspects, on all levels. It's just, I guess it's just, I haven't been able to do that with men. So,
And it's too bad that you haven't found. Now, obviously, it is true, because you know, women have, not all women, but the past 10 years, men have been hearing nothing but third wave feminism, and you know, this so-called liberation of the woman, taking her out of her environment that she loves so much and forcing her to be to adopt male-like tendencies. And now men are kind of like tiptoeing around women. They don't even know how to act anymore. And then you do have the gold diggers out there, which I'm sure you're not, but I'm sure they've had experience with them. But like on the flip side, a real adult, confident alpha male that is coming in would be very, very clear with you in terms of what he wants to do and what kind of life he wants to build. Because, first of all, let me ask you, if you don't mind talking about this, are you willing to have more children?
So after the show, I actually had another daughter. So yeah, she's 6 months. So
Oh,
that's
okay. Congratulations. I didn't know. So you have 3 children now.
yeah, I do. Yeah.
And
And so
again,
that relationship didn't work out either.
okay,
Um,
so you had another relationship with a different guy, and you had a third child.
yeah. I said actually Daya knows about it too, the guy from Algeria.
Yes, yeah, Dea, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I did. I ended up having another kid. That relationship didn't work out. And so I was disappointed in myself because like I knew what I wanted, but I allowed myself to kind of deceive myself because I fell into another relationship that I thought, this would be good, this could be better, but it wasn't. Like it didn't last. It didn't work out in the end. And so I was disappointed, in myself for that because I knew what I wanted, but it didn't happen.
I love how you are taking like accountability for it. I think that's
Mm,
great.
yeah.
I don't think enough people do that. For
Hmm.
the like you're entirely responsible for the people that you meet and decide to do things with,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I respect that. I think that's really, really mature of you. Um, and again, I'm sorry about the outcome, but just thinking about things that may affect the man you're looking for to come in and like be there for you at that capacity, it's like
Hmm.
that may be another factor to consider.
Right. Yeah. So my daughter, she's now 6 months. So throughout the whole, I had guys trying to talk to me even while I was pregnant. I'm like, yeah, I just can't do this. Like, I don't trust, myself right now to even talk to any guys. Even after I gave birth, I'm like, I just don't feel like I'm in a good position to even try to put this on any guy, um, so I'm like, I would tell him straight up, like, I'm pregnant or, hey, I just had a kid. Cause I'm like, you know what? I'm not even trying to like tiptoe around anything. It is what it is. And that's usually how I am. Like I'm a straight shooter. Um, and so that's why I haven't dated anybody. And even trying to date, even after I tell a guy like, hey, I'm a mom, I got 3 kids. I still feel very uncomfortable, even though they are like, it's okay, they're very respectful, they're very understanding. They're like, I get it, I have kids, or, it's okay, I get it, don't worry, I'm good with kids, blah, blah, blah. I just don't know how I can accept a guy because I feel like it's a lot of pressure for me and I don't feel comfortable like just, hey, now you're responsible, like now you need
Right.
to take care of me and my kids. Like, so that's
Did
why
you,
I can.
yeah, did you
Mhm.
grow up around males? Did you have brothers?
No,
Okay.
no, brother. Hmm.
Okay. That's interesting because you have like a very, I guess, mature and like realistic perspective on this because most women would be, I wouldn't say most women, but it wouldn't be surprising for like a woman to consider that like your position as a vulnerability, which you're obviously not doing, and needing
Hmm.
to be saved, if you will,
Hmm.
um, by another man. And maybe Dea in Algeria, I do not think that he would have been. Maybe he is. I don't know. It's too bad. Like we didn't get to know him properly, but it's a tall order. Like you come with already so much of your life like accomplished versus a guy who wants to be with you and like roll back the tape and like start at step one, and you're already a few steps ahead, you know.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
again like there's that conflict, that friction, I think, that you might have with like a lot of guys.
Yeah. Um, and I'm just like at the point, it's like, okay, it's nice to have that male companionship. It's nice to have like, you know, a friend, and whether it's a woman or a man. But I kind of don't have the expectations anymore of like, I want to get married. When I get married, this is what it is. Cause every time tell myself, okay, I'm going to get married. The next person I meet, like I'm gonna get to know them. They're going to get to know me, then we're going to have a relationship and go from there. But it kind of always goes backwards. It starts like on the flip side, it starts backwards. So now I'm just like, you know what? If I get married, I get married. If I never get married, then I better figure out, like this single life and just be okay with it. But I don't want to continue to keep allowing guys to kind of just come in and out. And I don't do that because my kids, I have, kids. So I've never allowed men to just kind of like come in and out. So when I do ever let a man around my kids, it's only because like I take him serious enough to even do that, which has only probably been 2 guys my whole life, since I've had my kids. My daughter's now 11, so they probably have met 2 guys in person that I've actually like was in a relationship with. And I just don't feel it's right to do that to them. Just, whenever I talk to some guy, like bring him in my house and, just leave him to watch them. Like none of the guys have ever just watched my kids. Like I don't just make him a babysitter or ever leave my kids alone with any guy, that I've ever
Right.
talked to. So yeah.
Yeah.
If
And
friend is what it is.
yeah. And I think that just kind of, that mindset just like alleviates so much pressure off your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have your children and you have your career and you have, your businesses, and there's so much going on. Would you say that, you're willing to just continue you're willing to go on without any male in your life?
If that's what it is, yeah, if I keep coming across men who have like the same mentality, who think that sex is everything, because it's not. And okay, the reason why I say that is because that's how most of my relationships been. But with Dea and with few guys, so he was like, no, it's not about sex. Clearly we couldn't have sex. He was my one and only online long distance relationship. So to me, that's another reason why I was doing this, because I was like, okay, I don't have to have sex with this guy. We can just get to know each other, and there's no way for him to just like use me, for sex. And so, but then it kind of was about like religion with him. And so we couldn't get past that point. But yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of guys and in this new age, they expect sex, and if they're not getting it, and it's, that's how the new age women are too. Like they expect, money, and if they're not getting it, then, it's easy to kind of just like cut people off and dispose of people. And yes, those things, play a factor, and they're beneficial. But I feel that what's more important to me is like somebody who's honest, somebody who's genuine, and somebody who I feel can continue on with me every part, beyond whatever it is that the conflict is, whether it's religion, whether it's work schedule, or whether it's financials, struggles, or whatever the money may be, whatever it is. I feel like somebody who can kind of like work through every step of the way. And I just have not found that in one person.
Mm-hmm.
And, some people have, and good for them, and I feel that at this point, it's not wrong being single. I've seen marriages where I've met men who treat their wives worse than me being single, talking to a random guy that's not my husband. Like I've met men like, yeah, I buy everything for my wife, so she's good, she can stay home, she can relax, she don't have to worry about the money. But behind her back, like it's a whole nother story. He's doing whatever he wants to do with whoever he wants to do it with. So
Right.
it's like, I don't want that either. Like, I don't want to be in the middle.
Right. Right. But
Marriage.
at that point, I would ask, well, what is she doing for him as well? Right. Like there's two sides to every story, and I don't condone that behavior, but there's a lot of marriages too where once the women get what they want, they are done. You know how the peacock shows its feathers to
Hmm.
attract the mate, and then once they get it and everything is settled, because a woman ultimately wants stability, security, financial resources to build a family and to be happy. And once all of those things are kind of ticked off the list, it's like, well, are you still acting the same way that you were when your husband engaged you and married you and built this life with you? And if
Hmm.
and if so, then there's a bigger problem that we need to talk about. But if not, then you kind of need to like figure out why he's going and getting attention elsewhere. Because
Hmm.
I guess you made an interesting comment, because it's not always about sex with men. No, it's not. But men are able to really add that physical part to a relationship more with a woman, because they have like a real physical need to be with somebody. Like
Yeah.
it's anatomy, like it's just gender. It's one of our main differences. We're not equal in that regard, you know? And a woman is, in their eyes, is somebody that they can do that with, you know? And obviously without being used or abused or being put in a bad situation. Like a woman should never do something she doesn't want to do, obviously, but in the same sense, I don't like to accuse men of only wanting one thing, but I think women just need to understand that that thing is maybe higher up on the list
Hmm.
than women.
You're right. And I don't mind that. That's not the problem. But if I'm not getting what I need, which I need is like honesty, I need like somebody who's genuine, somebody who's trustworthy, somebody who I know is loyal. I don't mind all that,
A hundred
but
percent.
still that, then we got a problem because now I feel like you're just taking advantage. So that,
Absolutely. So it kind of, like a man will look at a woman, and he will figure out whether she's worth whatever he can offer. But then at the same time, the woman has to do the same thing, but they both offer different things. We don't offer the same thing. So in your case, I think it's more about, you know, making like better judgment calls on who you bring into like that private circle, in your life.
hmm.
And I think and I think a lot of women are in the same boat. And I think a lot of men too need to like figure out their standards too. Like it's nice when a man has standards. It's nice when a man won't just sleep with anybody, or
That is nice.
right. You make the woman, you want to make the woman feel exclusive. You want to make her feel like she's, one in a billion, and all that stuff. And there's a lot of men that can do that easily, and there's a lot of men that can't. It all depends. Like every man is different as well. Like I don't want to paint them all with the same brush. But to go back to the cultural element of all of this, Arab men in general would typically be able to bring that level of structure and like discipline and tradition to the table before anything physical would need to happen. Uh, and I think that's a rare attribute that more and more women are like becoming more attracted to at the end of the day.
Hmm. Yeah. Not to talk bad of like the Arab culture, because I still do love and appreciate the Arab people. Um, I guess just my experiences. Maybe it could be, again, because of the work that I do, I'm kind of just like set up and built in a certain way to kind of like attract, certain things. And so I kind of have to like work a little harder to like filter things. Um, but from my experience with like dating Arab guys, I feel that I can't necessarily like say that's what it is. I'm sure that's how they're, raised and that's what they're taught. But from my personal experience, I feel that they like to kind of keep a whole secret life. going on, and I'm part of their little secret, and so
Exactly. Do you
even
know
though I'm
why?
still a real person, I'm still human, I'm still a woman, you know, to them, I'm just their little secret, and I don't like that.
It's because you're not Arab.
That part could be. I've seen guys get with different culture girls, but again, I think it has to do with the work mainly.
Do you still dance?
Sometimes, like
Okay.
I try to do like maybe 2 nights a week right now.
Okay. Yeah, and yeah, and I think a lot of it's true. Like, I'm not gonna like put them up on a pedestal and say that they're all the same, but it is true that there's a double life there, where there's like you know home, and then you play, and if to them, if it's not conceivable to bring somebody like you home, then guess what, you're now being put in a different category, which is play. Not you particularly, sorry, like somebody from another culture, for instance, because they can maybe just get away with more. And that, to me, that's the hypocrisy I'm trying to call out all the time in my episodes, is it's like, you know regardless of what culture the other person comes from. And I've used this in a previous podcast, and it was great advice, and the girl actually ended up using that advice, where it's like, you take a guy and you hold him to his own standards, and you say, what if a guy was treating your own sister like this?
Hmm. Yeah.
Right? Like, what happens now? You need to actually live like by your own standards, and apply those standards to everybody you meet.
Yeah, and I've actually had to do that a few times. But then again, it's a matter of what I feel I have the energy to kind of like fight, and continue to keep you know, fighting to prove myself, or just kind of let it go and you go on without me and without the benefits that I offer, because clearly you're benefiting and clearly you're enjoying, parts of me. But if I have to fight to prove myself to you and to prove myself to the people that you need to, meet their expectations of, then I'm just not going to continue to keep giving my energy to that. Um, and that's pretty much like what it is.
Yeah.
The last baby, or my last child, her dad is actually Muslim, and so we were in a real, yeah. So my daughter's Arab and Mexican.
Hold on. Hold
Yeah.
on right now. Wait. I need you. Hold on. Wait. Let me just.
That's why I can say what I need to say.
Okay. Hold on. Just give me a second. Okay. You went on 90 Day Fiance
Hmm.
with somebody you were getting to know from Algeria, and it didn't work out.
Hmm.
And then you ironically ended up having another relationship and a child with a Muslim.
You know what my dad told me? Because I told my dad I was going to Algeria. I'm like, Daddy, I call him Daddy. I'm like, Daddy, I'm going to Mexico. To Algeria. I'm getting married. He's like, what? He's like, my dad with his little Taliban. He's like, you're gonna
Oh
marry a
God.
Taliban? That's my Mexican dad for you.
Oh God. Oh my God. That's crazy. First of
He's
all,
like,
Talibans are Afghans. They're not Arabs. Like, get that out of
yeah,
your head. That has nothing to do with Arabs, but that's the culture is different than the religion. But the person that you were with is Arab as well, because not all Arabs are Muslim, by the way. Um,
yeah. So
where was he
his
from? What
parents
country?
Lebanon, and
Okay.
they come from Palestine. So
Okay.
originally Palestine, and then his parents were born in Lebanon. So yeah, that's that. My dad tells me after he knew I was going to Algeria to marry, he's like, why don't you just date a Taliban in Milwaukee?
Oh my God.
That's
I need to talk to your dad after this.
that makes a lot of jokes though. He thinks he's funny. So
Every dad does. Absolutely. That's why they're called dad jokes.
yeah. But then I ended up getting with an Arab guy here. And the way that it kind of happened was like I was not looking for it at all. I was kind of like just in a place where I was just working. I'm like, I need to get myself back into working and getting my money together, get myself financially stable again. Um, and then I was on a little break. I was like, I need a little break from this because I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I need to like step out for a little bit, hang out for a little bit. So I went out one night with like old high school friend, then a guy approached me. Lo and behold, another Arab. He approached me, he started talking to me, like wanting to get to know me. That turned into a whole situation, which kind of like, I don't want to go into that right now. But from that came the guy that I ended up having a daughter with. So he kind of, well, nothing happens by accident, but it was an accident, but God knows, why it really happened. So we got into contact, by accident. I didn't mean to, he didn't mean to, kind of just like happen. But, again, God knows everything and nothing's really an accident. So we started talking. I felt that he was like, a chill person, a good person, a nice person. But the underlying, intentions, I eventually found out, like I kind of knew, but I was just like, I distanced myself from him a few times. I'm like, yeah, I don't really like how I'm becoming, and I don't really like how I'm feeling about his intentions. But then he would kind of like come back. So I'm like, maybe he really is interested. Maybe he really does want to get to know me. So that happened a few times, where we would kind of like, I reached out to him in the beginning, but then towards like the end, he would kind of keep reaching out towards me. And then eventually I got pregnant. And then all of a sudden now it's nothing between us. And it just kind of like blew up, and I had no contact.
So you guys were seeing each other on and off, if you will. Mm-hmm. Is that what you mean? We're talking about the Lebanese Palestinian guy, right?
Yeah, pretty much for like a year before I got pregnant. Yeah.
Okay. And then as soon as you got pregnant, and was he around during the pregnancy?
That's where religion became a conflict again, which it did not make sense to me at all, because I knew I wasn't supposed to have sex before marriage. As a Christian, that, you're aware of that. As a Muslim, that, you're aware of that. But then again, we don't always, do
of course
what we're instructed. So, we're in a relationship together. He knew what he was doing. I knew what I was doing. And I knew we were in a relationship, I thought, but it was just a lot going on my part too. A lot. I wasn't innocent through this. And once I got pregnant, he's like, no, you can't have this baby. It's against my religion. My family can't find out about this. You need to have an abortion, so pretty much just like trying to end everything at that point. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, so then why were you continuing? Why were you having sex with me? Why were you saying these things to me? So I'm like, you know what? Fuck you, pretty much. I'm like, I'm not going to listen to what you have to say, because it's just not making any sense to me. And I'm not going to have an abortion. Like, that's just what it is. If you don't want to be a part, okay, well, whatever, fuck you, pretty much. But yeah, he wasn't there throughout the whole pregnancy. And my daughter's 6 months now. He's never met her. I have not spoken to him since I pretty much was pregnant, because it was just getting real disrespectful, like while I was pregnant. So I was just like, I'm not gonna, continue this, because at this point I thought your mentality should change. At this point, I thought we should be in a different direction, but now you're going backwards, and now you're trying to go in the opposite direction. So if that's where you want to go ahead. If you want to go that way, go. But
yeah, that's crazy. Like he as soon as shit hits the fan and it's time to put your big boy pants on, he suddenly had a whole bunch of issues, and he starts bringing up all the things that maybe he should have brought up or thought about before, he was with you physically. I love how the cart's before the horse, with all this.
I mean, we're doing fine. So, she has my mom, she has, her brother, his sister, I have family here, and everybody has been very supportive and very helpful with me. So I have not even, I refuse to go. I know where he lives, but I refuse to go to like reach out to his parents. I refuse to go reach out to him or his family because they all knew. They all knew. And they should have known. You know, he should have told them. And if they're walking around like they don't know, well, that's, you know, they're lost because, you know, I feel that at this point he should have made more effort and he hasn't. So, you know, we're good.
Wow. That's, yeah, you are good, and I'm happy to hear that you're in a good place. You know, it just, it fucking boils my blood just to see, like, whether it's a woman or a man, just not be there for a life that they bring into this world at any capacity. You know, it's the lowest of the low, and I can't even say that that has nothing to do with culture, that has
No.
nothing to do with religion. You're just a shit person at that point.
Yeah, I agree. And she's beautiful. Like she's literally so perfect. And you know, like when I see her, I appreciate her, you know, like I don't hold it against her for being Arab. Like I don't say like, oh my God, you know, like what I'm saying, like it's like you said, it's not a culture thing. Like I still love Arab people, even though my experiences haven't necessarily been the best. Um, you know, I've had good experiences with Arabs. I've had bad experiences with, you know, blacks, white, Mexicans, and I've also had good experience. So it's not a one thing, you know, race type thing. It's like an individual, personal, you know, type thing going on. So I love her Mexican side. I love her Arab side. So, you know, she's perfect.
That's great. I love that. And I think she will be loved by both sides when she's older as well. I don't doubt
Mhm.
it. You know, the Arab community is going to like love her just as much and take her in, especially if you keep her around all the right people and you make sure that she's surrounded by love and support. And, you know, like, again,
Yeah.
it may have been a good thing that he kind of dipped, because I can't speak for anybody else, but like, even for Lebs, we're hard on each other, you know, as far as having kids and marrying and choosing. And it's like, what village is she from? What's her last name? What religion? Even within the religion, like, what sect is she from? Like, we put up all of these like barriers to
Mhm.
success, you know? And so for you, it was like, um, he like he made big boy decisions, but he wasn't able to keep up with what the culture demands of him. Like, traditionally, you have to be there for your kids and for the woman that you're with, regardless of where she's from. You know, like, I have family members that are mixed marriages, and their kids are gorgeous and everybody's getting along great. And especially in America, you know, like, or in Canada, like, it's so common, and it shouldn't be like such a huge deal, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have friends that are Arab, like girls, you know, girlfriends. And while I was pregnant, I was making like a belly cast. I don't know if you know what that is. Yeah, and so one of my friends, she's Arabian, she actually came and she helped me with this. So like, you know, I really appreciated that. You know, she kind of stepped in and offered like, "Hey, you need help? Can I, you know, I'll help you." You know,
Yeah,
so I thought so yeah, no, she you know, I do receive, you know, a lot of love from, you know, the Arab
good,
people. So,
good. And yeah, wow, that was a curveball though. I did not see that
yeah.
coming at all. It's like, wow. Honestly,
Yeah.
if I were Dea, I would be pissed. If I
Really,
were in his shoes,
um,
I would have been like, man, like, some guy got the cookie, and like, I've been here like trying to bust my ass and all these messages.
telling him
And
to come. I was telling him before I even got with this guy, like, get your stuff together so you can come. He's like, I don't care about the visa. It's not about the visa. I'm like, oh my God. Like,
that's that
whatever.
pride. That's that pride right there.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. It's all good. And I guess you're probably like, there's nothing going on now as far as TLC is concerned, or the show, or anything like that. You've moved on.
no. Mm-mm. No, so I remember I was at Target. I was like trying on some clothes or whatever. They wanted me to get some new clothes for like one of the filming things that had to take place. And while I was in the dressing room, I was really irritated for something because they kept asking, "Oh, is Dia calling you? Is Dia gonna call you? When is Dia gonna call you?" And I'm like, I'm thinking like the times are different. I'm thinking like he got my message, like he doesn't always respond right away, so he's gonna respond when when he's gonna respond. But they're like, "We need this now. We need this now." So I was already like kind of irritated with them, and so I was really irritated with him too because he's making it difficult to get the paperwork and to be on time, to do these questions and to do the filming, so I'm thinking like I get his part, but then I'm mad at him too because it's like, okay, they're only here for a little bit of time, so you kind of have to do the interview and do the questions and be filmed when they're asking, so that way, one, they're not pressuring me, and two, so you can be there. You gotta have to like set your alarm or do your little schedule arrangements, whatever. But so I was really irritated on both parts, and so he's like, "I'm not doing this anymore. They keep asking too many religious questions." And at that point I was like, you know what, all right, fine. You already gave me a hard time with doing the paperwork. You're giving me a hard time with like, answering your phone when I need to like talk to you because they're only here for the weekend. And now they're pressuring me. When's he gonna answer? Oh, is he ignoring you? Like, oh, does he not really want to be with you? And so I'm just like, whatever. So I'm like, he doesn't want to do it anymore. He's mad because you guys are asking him religious questions. And they're like, but we need to know these things. I'm like, okay, but he doesn't want to keep answering these things. So I'm like, he don't want to do it no more. I'm like, if he doesn't want to do it no more, then it is what it is. We're not going to do it anymore. And so that was pretty much what happened at Target in the dressing room. And I pretty much just said, we're done at that point. And that was that.
Wow. What a
Yeah.
way. It's just so simple, like just like that.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I would have continued. Like, I really wanted to, but he had already made his decision. He didn't want to anymore. So, like I said, out of respect, I was like, fine, you don't want to? Okay, then.
Yeah,
I
fair
guess.
enough.
It's,
Yeah,
so,
and it's
yeah.
hard, being put on a pedestal and like out in public and like, airing out all your laundry for the
Mhm.
world to like see and everything. And if he's just a private guy, then he's a private guy, like I kind of get that too. Because like the American culture or North American culture is like we 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 don't shy away from a camera all the time, right? But you got to like empathize with other cultures that are like a little bit more modest and discreet and private. And I'm surprised he went along with what he did, to be honest.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I was scared too with knowing that they were going to film in Algeria because I already know, like, being a dancer is not acceptable in the Muslim, culture, especially in the Muslim world. So I already knew. And I told them I didn't want to be filmed at the club. And so I'm more of kind of like a free flowing, I'll say no. But if you do enough to convince me and it just makes sense, then I'll go with it. And so eventually they kept, telling me things that was like, come on, we really want to do this. It's not going to be that bad. We're going to capture in this angle, da 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 da. So they convinced me. So we got the little capture in the club.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew, I'm like, I really didn't want to because you guys want to also go to Algeria. And if I go to Algeria, I don't want, me in my mind, I'm like, I feel like that's going to be disrespectful to the people. And I feel like it's going to get them angry. And I don't know what they're going to want to do to me. Like, I'll go, but
Right.
I, don't want to offend people where now, they feel like they need to like, put me in my place or, do something that's going to hurt me because I'm disrespecting them now. So
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, it's not that extreme, I don't think. I think that it's a fairly safe and peaceful and reasonable place to be, but as long as you respect the local traditions and the cultures while you're there, which we've had other cast members on the show. Like for instance, there's a couple that this girl from Miami went to Jordan, and she couldn't have cared less about the local cultures and the you know, the customs, which I know for a fact, like, I'm pretty sure that you would have done, but that fear is a legitimate fear. But I think it's, first of all, I don't even know how many people there would have known about the show, to be honest.
Mhm.
So, but it would have been interesting though to see you there nonetheless, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I guess I was kind of thinking of like once it was broadcasted, like, I don't know how they would have like, you
Packaged
know,
it.
right. I don't know how they would have put it out there,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to personally be like an influence, because I know the work, that I do. I know the reason why I do it, but I never want to impose, that on somebody that I feel is like against it or not for it. So I didn't want to go and make them portray it as if I'm trying to like influence,
Right. Or
the
like you're standing up for like a certain lifestyle, or you're like defending it in some way where you're saying like, oh, it should be acceptable and it should be okay with everybody, like kind of like
Mhm.
imposing your will.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't want that to be portrayed like that's what I'm trying to do, because I would never. Like, I have nieces and nephews. I even have, daughters of my own. And I never want to like influence them, like, you should do this. Or, like, I never want to like influence, because
Of course.
I with how I fell into it. To me, it is what it is. But I don't want to make every girl feel like this is it, like this is what you need to do, like this is the way, because it's not. Like, everybody has other ways. I'm still working on doing my businesses, figuring that part out, so I can kind of be done with this part of my life. But
Yeah.
if somebody comes to me and they're like, so like, I really want to know, I really want to do this, like this is what I want, I might give them advice like, hey, it's not really that, it's not really that nice, it's not really that glamorous, there's a lot of other things that go with this. You need to be careful because of this and this, so I'll give them advice and I'll let them know, the good and the bad. But if they're so like, I really want to do it, then I'll advise them and help them, with what I know and with what, I've learned and what has helped me. But I don't just go out there and like promote it, like
Right.
this is what you do.
Yeah, I respect that. I love that. It's very mature. Um, yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention or that you wanted to talk about, just in terms of, you know, your relationships or our episodes, or anything else that you wanted to mention?
No, I think I already told you that I really liked your show. I got some good laughs from it, some things I was like, oh, what? Like, how rude. But
Yeah.
for the most part, I was like, okay, I get it. I understand. Like, I respect that. No, so I appreciate, what you're doing. I appreciate, the way you're kind of like speaking on it, and, how you're directing it. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. And it's not an easy task, I'll tell you that. You know, the culture is not always receptive to what I'm trying to do here.
Hmm.
So I appreciate you as well, and the time that you've given me today. I'm really happy that you reached out to me, actually. I loved hearing that you saw the episodes, and I told my co-host as well, and he was like, he wishes that he can be here today. Thank you again, Marta. And again, for anybody that's listening to this on the Cool Cousins podcast, or if you're watching this on YouTube, if you have any questions for Marta, go ahead and comment them, or you can reach out to me at luckyloosh@gmail.com. And also, Marta is on Instagram as well. I'm going to put all of her socials in the description below this video. Marta Maldonado, thank you so much for your time, and good luck with everything. And I guess, you know, you're kind of a part of the family now, because your daughter she's a part of the gang now, and it was a real pleasure to have you. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All
Bye.
right, bye bye.